welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We're really excited today to get caught up in our November reading that we did. And we have some really fun stuff to talk about. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Bree's here.
Hey, everybody.
How are you doing?
I'm doing, girl.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're in December already. Like, oh my gosh. You know what I've been thinking, Rachel? I was like, last year I did so good about literally like watching every premiere the night that it came
Mhm.
out. And something about this year, I'm like, I don't remember last year there being too many nights where we got like 3 movies back to back.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like struggling to stay caught up, but it's still fun. It's been
Well,
just wonderful.
especially this last weekend where they, instead of doing a movie every day over Thanksgiving week, which was what they had done previously, they had them all bunched into 4 days. So it was, I mean, I still have two more to watch for, for the backup. I mean, for the recap tomorrow. I still have two more to watch. And I will have, I will have watched by tomorrow, I will have watched 18 Christmas movies in 1 week.
Oh my gosh. Have you found the time to like watch anything else to kind
Yeah,
of
that's the
break it up?
crazy thing is I mean, I did watch some of them early. I watched all, because I'd gotten the screener links from Up and from Lifetime. So some of them I didn't watch this last week, and even though they aired this week. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I still had to watch my Oscar coverage, my awards films for my job as a film critic. Like so I had that as well. So I have just been like a crazy hermit person.
Yeah, in front of the TV or the computer.
It's been bad. But I did read a little bit earlier in the month. I was not this last week,
Yeah,
but
and then the countdowning really
yeah,
got.
yeah. So, uh, and I enjoyed that. I liked everything I read pretty much, and so that was good. But yeah, it's been wild. It's been wild. I've
Yeah.
already watched 70 Christmas movies.
Oh my gosh.
New. So there we go.
And it's literally December 1st when we're recording this. So, I
Yes.
mean, you still have 24 days.
Yeah, but I feel like it's winding down because I mean the last Hallmark movie is the 19th, and so really we the finish line is in sight.
Yeah. Get those DVRs set, folks. If you've missed something, record it when it comes on.
But you've had a lot on your plate as well. I mean, you have so many books you're reading, you have your kids, your podcasting, you've got a lot going on as well.
Yeah, this is always the time of the year that I look forward to the most, but it's also just really a test of like how are you going to balance things because September comes and I want to read kind of like dark and spooky stuff and Christmas books start coming out in September. So it's like how do you juggle that? And then Hallmark starts playing Christmas movies in October. So then it's like, well, how am I going to read and watch movies? But you know what? Every year I manage to make it happen. My reading slows down in December just because I'm like, I've been reading all year. I can take a break. It's fine. Like if I don't read as much. So it's just it, whatever way you can do it to make not get overwhelmed. I say do it.
Yeah.
So
Do you
typically I just kind of like embrace the movie watching, read when I can, but if I don't read a bunch, it's fine.
do you have a goal of how many books to read in a year?
Yes, and every year for the past like 3 years, it's been 115 books, which I do pretty well at. I usually hit it in like late April or early May. And my husband's always like, "Well, why don't you up it?" And I'm like, "Well, what if I have a really busy year and I can't read?" I mean, I
Mhm.
think right now, according to my Goodreads, let me check, you guys. I know I mean, I hit it, like I said, a long time ago. My current I've read 187. So,
Wow.
that's
That's
pretty
awesome.
good.
Yeah, that's really good. My goal was to read 50,
Mhm, mhm.
and, I did achieve that in I think actually in, like, October.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so I've
congratulations.
read more than 50, but
If you read one book, that's one more book than people that don't read anything, so
right.
that's all that matters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, let us know if you are listening, if you have a Goodreads, if you have a Goodreads goal. We'd love to hear in the comment section what you've been reading and what your literary world was like in 2021. That would be fun actually. We should do like a best of what we read in especially you in 2021. That would be fun.
Yeah, that would
Maybe
be
as a
fun.
bonus for the patrons. That would be fun
Yeah.
in January. Best books of the season. Well, so for our selection for this month, we decided to talk about Mistletoe in Juneau, and it's by Dahlia. I forgot all the
Dahlia
surname.
Rose.
Dahlia Rose.
And
It's
I
by
think it's Juneau. It's in Alaska, right? So, yeah, it's Juneau. Mistletoe and
oh,
Juneau.
Juneau. Yeah,
Mhm.
Juneau. Yeah, so we picked this month. We read Mistletoe in Juneau, by Dahlia Rose, and this I think is her first book for Hallmark Publishing.
Yeah, I think so
And
too.
yeah, and the little summary the is Danny's a social media influencer who's way out of her element. She sort of broke up with her boyfriend slash manager, and she escaped her fast paced life in New York City to spend Christmas with an old friend in Juneau, Alaska. Danny takes in the beauty of the scenery and the warmth of the community, and she's drawn to the local sheriff. Before Declan was an Alaskan state trooper, he was in the army. An IED explosion cost him his leg and his fiance, who couldn't deal with the injury. He knows Danny's a city girl while he loves the Alaskan wilderness. Could two very different people find what their hearts are looking for? So, Bree, what did you think of this one overall?
Well, I don't want to I don't like to typically compare things, but since we read two Hallmark Publishing books back to back,
Yeah.
I will say I enjoyed this one a lot more than the previous one that we read. What did you
Yeah.
think?
I completely agree. I mean, you could definitely make the case that this one is very basic. You know, it's the city girl going to the country, small town, kind of a thing. But I thought that the two characters were really well written and they had a very good chemistry, and so I enjoyed it.
Yeah, agree. I liked Danny. Um, the social media influencer was I really like that. I don't know. I feel like that's very in alignment with a lot of the careers that we see our Hallmark heroines have. Like somebody usually is in
Mhm.
marketing or,
Yeah,
an author or something like
a
that. So it felt,
photographer.
yeah, a photographer. It felt really on brand, but also I just like the incorporation of a social media influencer because who isn't an influencer these days, okay? I know that there are normal people out there, but for the most part. And Declan, I felt like he really just provided so much depth and conflict to the story because of everything that he'd been through. So, yeah, I agree. I think that they were both really well written characters.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wondered if she is the type of person who would have started a relationship with Austin to begin with the manager guy. That just seemed so against her
Who she
personality.
was. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
agree.
but nevertheless, I was able to accept it, and she was just kind of shy, and it does it. it rings true that because a lot of people think, oh, you're online, you're on YouTube, you must be super extroverted. But I actually found like a lot of actors, a lot of people in those type of positions are actually kind of shy and a little bit awkward.
Yeah. And like with Austin, I was confused for a while with that situation because it just did not I didn't feel any romantic feelings whatsoever between
Yeah.
them. So I just was wondering, I'm like, is this kind of a relationship that she was kind of, I don't want to say forced into, but they spend so much time together that it just kind of, before you know it, they're dating, you know? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of what I felt, but I also was like, I could have took it or leave it. Like we didn't really need to have him, I feel like.
Well, and also I kind of wonder if he sort of went on a charm offensive at one point, to kind of he seems like the kind of guy who would do something like that.
Yeah.
And but then it would cool pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But
He
he
just, like,
was a good
really
listener.
represented, like, that world that she came from,
Hmm.
and he was, like, so hungry for that world and didn't wanna leave that world, so I think that once the story got going, he represented, like, that lifestyle that she had and appreciated, but she was ready for a change. Like, I don't want to live like that anymore. And he was like making decisions for her and stuff. I'm
Hmm.
like, it was just hard to believe. Like you said, like for a minute, I kind of questioned her judgment as a person. Like, why would you be with this person? He
Hmm.
does not seem like someone
Hmm.
you would be with at all.
Yeah, that's the problem with like the bad men of business is that it does sometimes impact the credibility of your leading lady because it's like, why would you be with somebody like this? That's a total
Yes.
jerk.
Yes.
but but nevertheless, I liked the fact that she was kind of awkward, was shy, had a hard time kind of standing up to Austin, standing up to the makeup people, kind of a thing. And on one hand, you would be grateful for getting the sponsorships and everything like that, but on the other hand, you have to like kind of guard your not only your brand but your uh your time and be doing something that you value and that you find worthy with your life, like that. You can't take necessarily every offer that's given to you in life,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know even if other people would say, what, how could you not do that? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I do feel like I have just about had it with love stories where the major obstacle is they live in different places. I'm just like,
Oh my gosh, Rachel. Yes. I mean,
I'm just
this
like,
I
this
feel like
is
this yes,
the
yes. I feel like this goes back to what we talked about with the last Hallmark book that
worst.
we
Yeah.
read. Like, it just makes you wonder why we keep getting the same thing. Is it because people like they know as a publisher, like readers really love this, but how do you really know that? Like I feel like we scream from the rooftops like we want something different. We're going to read whatever you put out
Mhm.
because we love the idea, we support you. We're behind you. But like we also are like putting our money into this, so something new
Mhm.
would be very appreciated. And
Well, and just because you you want something different doesn't mean like it has to be like something crazy. Like
right,
it
right.
could be like just little different. Like I love Christmas pen pals so much, and I thought the whole idea this was on Lifetime, a channel, but the whole idea of a whole town writing letters to each other at
That
Christmas,
is
that's
so
such a
sweet.
good idea. Like
Yeah.
it's something fresh. It's not like it's within this genre, of course. But I don't know. And obviously like living if you live in different states, like that is a problem. But I guess it just depends on how it's dealt with, but I just feel like it's such an easily solved problem. You just move.
Yeah,
Like,
because if you look at it, right, we get presented this type of story with all the conveniences of how that would work. Any normal, everyday woman, you and I, if we traveled to Alaska and met a gentleman or whomever and fell in love, we couldn't necessarily just uproot our lives like that, you know? Like
mhm,
most women have a job, they'd have to, go home, spend 6 or 7 months looking into a new,
yeah,
could I possibly work in this place? And like but she is a social media influencer, so she can pretty much go wherever. And it's like you
mhm,
see all of these like easy conveniences for stuff like this to happen, but it's like we see this over and over again. Like,
yeah.
why
Like,
not just go ahead.
the process would probably take a while, but it's still fairly, like, simple,
Yeah,
like, I just think anyone would be crazy to accept a job over, like, love, like, if it's, like, the love of your life, you're really gonna stay in wherever you're at and not be with the person that you love because of just, like, some job? Like, you can get a job anywhere. Like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm just tired of that conflict. I've seen it so much, but it can be done well, and it was done well here. It really was. Like, I feel like we're sounding negative, but I really did enjoy this book. I liked both of the lead characters. I mean, I think having Declan be be a
law
veteran,
enforcement, yeah,
yeah, and his experience with his ex who left him because she wanted to be taken care of and not take care of somebody,
somebody,
which
yeah.
that was brutal.
This is I mean, okay, so like you said, we're not harping on this book, listeners. We actually did enjoy it. I felt like you could tell that Declan and Danny really manifested themselves to the author first, and then she probably just built
Yeah,
the plot around them because I mean, she could the story worked perfectly for them, but there was just so much to them that,
yeah,
while I feel like I'm saying, yes, I want something different, at the same time, what makes the fact that we get this same story over and over again in this instance is because she wrote the heck out of these characters.
yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Yeah, and I think the side characters were fun. I liked Amy and Mateo. I thought they were good.
Yeah. I loved like I've never been to Alaska. I'd love to go, but getting those
Mhm,
pieces of like Native American history, I love that she incorporated that.
mhm.
Um, I mean, yeah, just Alaska seems. I mean, a lot of in romance, I feel like we get like Texas and Montana, and Alaska's just one of those places where I'm like, yep, here's my money. I want to read about it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was beautiful, and, the little outings that they had doing different stuff was very swoon-worthy. Uh she did a good job kind of just drawing you into the characters, and, the
Y-
ending I thought really worked. I mean, when he
yeah,
sees Austin proposing and then he runs off and you're like, "No!"
yes, yeah.
Like, "Don't
I mean,
go!"
and really, I think the part that really got me was that because of what he'd been through, he'd been to war and he'd lost his leg and then he lost the person he was in love with. She chose, he really had that. He was kind of self conscious about, and he protected himself. He didn't want to get close to anybody because he didn't want to experience that rejection again. And so, I mean, in a way, he kind of makes Danny work for it a little bit. And then she is just like, I don't care about that, I don't care about that, and she had to really show him, like, I don't care about that, and I thought that that was really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because she has all of these, like, great opportunities, like, with the makeup line or the other things like that, and that's exciting, but, like, if it may not still not work, and there may be other people who look at your choices and say, how could you give that up? How could you not do that?" Well, like, you're not living their life, you don't know, what's going on, and,
Yeah.
I don't know, I just think, like, sometimes with certain things, even with like the podcast or with my work as a critic, like yes, it's a big blessing, it's an incredible opportunity, but like I can't necessarily, I'm only one human, so I can't do everything, and I've had to say no to certain things or not go to certain things because I just don't have the time, or it's just not going to work. So I can understand why that would be really really frustrating, and like that like window of time, I think when you're an influencer is can be so fleeting that you would feel the need to like take everything that's sent your way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it would be hard. And I don't know, I
And I'm
just
glad that
felt
they showed that. I'm glad that Dahlia Rose showed
mhm.
that because that's true. It's like when you're in that world, it's like, let me say yes to every little thing. And then eventually you
Yeah.
get to this point where you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. you know?
Yeah, I I remember my friend Kristen, Maldonado, who's a YouTuber, for a while I was like noticing she was just like on everybody's shows, and I said, Kristen, you don't have to say yes to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. You can say no. It's just so nice. Uh, but but yeah, I think that it's sometimes hard, and I do think that Danny is kind of the person who just wants to please everybody, wants to
Yeah.
make everybody happy, and then she kind of runs into this Declan who is kind of grumpy and kind of difficult, and she wants him to be happier, and
Yeah.
so there's some opposites. If we're talking about trope time, there is some opposites attract in here, I think, which
Definitely.
was good.
Yeah.
Added to the
Opposites
chemistry.
attract, definitely.
Yeah. And then I had of course, big city girl in the country. It's
The
poor big
beloved
city.
Hallmark trope, okay?
I mean, I think I liked this Christmas on Fifth Avenue. That we recently had an up channel that I think I liked it almost more because it was about it was the city girl in the city.
In the city, girl in the city. Yes. And you know what? It wasn't terrible, okay? There's a lot of
I
time in the apartment. We get her sense
Yeah,
of
I
the
really enjoyed it.
community.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
I
was
liked it.
fine, people.
Yeah.
I mean, and
uh,
I don't mind. I mean, Juneau, I guess, is technically a city too. I think it's like, I believe it's the biggest city in Alaska. I
yeah,
could be
let's see
wrong. It
here.
could be Anchorage. Um, but I mean, I don't mind the small town setting. Just
Yeah.
give me
30
something different. It shouldn't be the big city girl coming to the small town and realizing I work too hard and all the time, like all the time. I don't want that all the time.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and if she's an influencer, she can do that anywhere. So she could do it in Juneau.
Mhm.
She could do it anywhere. And now
Yeah.
you can fly, I mean, you could easily make it work, for any like New York events that you had to do. And but there's 32,227 was the 2019 population of Juneau, Alaska.
Okay.
So,
So I'm
yeah.
thinking maybe Anchorage is maybe the bigger one. I don't know.
Let's see.
Okay, okay. I don't know why I thought Juneau was the biggest city in Alaska.
Oh no, Anchorage 293,531.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
So it looks like the total population of Alaska is 731,545.
Bless all those people that, you know.
And Anchorage, Anchorage 293,000, and then Fairbanks is
Okay.
31,000, and Juneau is 32,000.
I remember watching, like, I saw this on Facebook. So there's a couple of like Air Force bases up in Alaska, and for my old job, like some of the troops, they were like working the gate one night, and this moose just walks through, and they're like, hey, just let the patrol officers know there's a moose loose on the road, like what can you do? And I'm like, wow, what an amazing experience.
They can work that into this book.
Yeah,
Here's random tidbit
yeah.
that here's random that Juneau, Alaska has the most millionaires of any city in the nation.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and Juneau tops national list of smallest cities with the most millionaires.
I mean, the millionaires just like bought some land and were like, let's all move here together.
Yeah,
That's
that
where they're all hiding.
one of every 13 households of Alaska capital city qualifies as a millionaire.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
need to move to Juneau, is what I'm hearing here, because there's also way more men in Alaska than there, and they're
Men and moose,
millionaires.
okay? Men and moose.
Men and moose and millionaires. That could be a book. Men,
Yeah.
moose, and millionaire.
I'm like,
Uh,
romance is always having these like millionaires that are like in New York City, and it's like, no, they're in Juneau.
yeah, that would be really good. But I just loved that. I really did love the ending. I mean, it was so it was very melodrama, but it was fun. And when they both end up missing each other, and they're both kind of racing after each other, and then they finally meet, and it was great.
Yeah, it
And
was.
yeah, and you felt so happy for Declan because after his fiance was so horrible, can you imagine being like, you were injured in the war. Sorry. See you later."
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Horrible.
Yeah,
I mean, I like, and it's not like he was paralyzed, which I feel like isn't even. I mean, would be a challenge, but I don't know. If you love somebody, it's still them. They're still the same person.
exactly. Yeah.
But
Having one leg doesn't make the man. I think somebody
yeah,
said that in the book too, and I was like,
right.
yes, like,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. So I enjoyed this one. I would probably give it I forget what I gave it on Goodreads, but I'd probably give it like 3.5 crowns
Same,
out of
same.
5. Yeah.
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 We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast.
Cozy up with A Very Bavarian Christmas, a delightful Christmas novel by Katie M. Reed.
Holly Noel Brigham is trapped back in her hometown personalizing ornaments at the mile-long Christmas store, and she doesn't even like Christmas.
As Holly works through fractured relationships and embarrassing misunderstandings, she stumbles upon love in the Bavarian-themed town from which she tried to distance herself.
Bestselling author Crystal Payne says this about A Very Bavarian Christmas. If you're looking for a holiday themed read that will warm your heart, but also make you think, this is the perfect pick. The storyline and characters draw you in from the get go, and you'll find yourself relating to their struggles and cheering for their victories.
Available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook.
Pick up A Very Bavarian Christmas for yourself and the Hallmark fans on your list at averybavarianchristmas.com.
That's averybavarianchristmas.com.
So all right. Let's do our reading roundup. Uh and so I actually read Mrs. Miracle Christmas by Debbie Maycomber before the new movie came out.
Yay. Okay.
And and I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was definitely a tearjerker, with this couple going through the infertility and losing a baby that they had fostered, wanted to adopt, and all of that. It was heavy. It was a lot, but it was well done, and it's definitely more faith based than the movie. Although the movie was more faith based than the typical Hallmark movie, but definitely more of a Christian themes than you would get in a Hallmark movie, which
Hmm.
I appreciated, and I thought was the one. Have you read this one?
I haven't read that one.
I had never read any of the Mrs. Miracle books.
Books, yeah.
I've read some Debbie Maycomber. I read Trading Christmas because that's my favorite Hallmark movie. I love that movie, and so I read the book. I mean, I previously, not this month, but I like her writing. She's fun, and you're a pretty big Debbie Maycomber fan, right?
Oh yeah. She was my first romance author. So It was Dashing Through the Snow. That was my first book by her, and then I learned that
Mm,
there was a Hallmark movie to go along with it. So I finally found that and watched it a couple
nice.
years later. But yeah, I really like Debbie.
Yeah, she's good. What about you? What's one you wanted to report on?
So, well, I'll do my Debbie makeover because I read a Debbie this month. I read in November. I read Dear Santa by her. And I will say the last couple Debbie makeovers that we've gotten, I really wasn't the biggest fan of. And I was like, is Queen Debbie makeover? Does she have like a ghostwriter that's not that good? Like, what's going on? I just was not really happy with some of her like recent releases. And then I read Dear Santa and it felt like the Debbie Maycomber I discovered back in 2017. I really enjoyed it. Um it's just woman, same type of story, goes home. Her mom like breaks out this box of letters that she had written to Santa as a kid. She kept basically all of them. And at this point in her life, like her boyfriend cheated on her, so she just dealt with a breakup. I mean, very like kind of beat by beat typical story, but her mom encourages her to write another letter to Santa, and through practicing having faith and showing gratitude, she does find love again, and it was just really sweet. And this book, it wasn't that long. I think it may have been 250 pages, maybe. I listened to it on audio, really enjoyed that. So if you're a Debbie Macomber fan and you need something, you would like something on your holiday TBR, I think definitely check this one out. It was really sweet.
Oh, that sounds good. I tend to like stories where people writing letters.
Hmm.
It almost sounds signed, sealed, delivered-ish,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I love. So that sounds good. All right. Well, my next one was I read Love and Lock Case by Stacey Agdern, who's a friend of the podcast,
We
and
love
we
Stacy.
love her. And it was really cute. Is about uh, this girl, and I really liked her. The name of the girl was Bacha. Maybe saying that wrong, but I thought that was a really pretty name. And
That is pretty.
there were other pretty names in the story. And anyway, there's this latke fry off. They have this festival with the latkes, and her crush, one time crush, Abe Newman, it was his name, Abe, that ends up being on the committee with her to plan the fry off. And it was cute. I really enjoyed it. I think she does a good job of writing the banter, and it's nice that we have somebody writing Hanukkah and other Jewish rom-com romance. I think it's great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shout out to her.
Yeah. Yeah, you should check it out if you haven't. She has two of the Hanukkah stories, The Miracles and Menorahs and Love and Latkes.
Okay.
Both fun, worth your time. So, what about you next?
Next, I read The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. And I'm going to be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan, but I still want to recommend it because it may be some people's cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
It is a holiday rom com that came out this year. And on the surface, the premise just sounds so much fun. It's about like a set of twins. One of them is like a celebrity chef, and like a shelf of like bowls and like cast iron skillets, I don't know, stuff falls on her and she gets a concussion, and she loses her sense of smell. So, she calls to her hometown and calls her twin sister, like, we have to swap lives. So it's kind of like The Parent Trap meets The Holiday. And this gives me anxiety. Okay, people? Like, I can't deal with the like fake identity, lying about who I am, falling in love, but the person doesn't know that it's really not you. I just can't deal. So
Yeah.
I was like reading it, and like I felt like I was a kid. You know how like you're peeking through your fingers? Like I couldn't tear my eyes away because I needed to know what was going to happen, but I was on edge the entire time. So that is
Yeah.
that. They switch places. Her twin sister, who's like a pastry chef. I mean, they kind of like grew up in their I think their father owned like a restaurant in their hometown. So they both have cooking experience, but they live very different lives. So yeah, the sister may work at the restaurant back home, but that doesn't mean she's on par with just walking into the life of a celebrity chef. And like her sister's co-worker is this guy, and he's kind of a jerk. And it's like you get to see her be the sister that's like stands up to him and stuff like that. And of course they both have romances that happen and all of that. So that's The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. Again,
Mhm.
it gave me a little bit of anxiety, but if it sounds like something you'd be interested in, I definitely think it's worth a read.
I think whenever you're having the fake fiance or fake relationship or swap like this, I think the key is you can't have people respond to it in a realistic way. You have to keep like a sense of it's such a ridiculous thing. No one would ever do that.
Yeah.
And so like and so when people are like, "How dare you lie to me? I could never forgive you." Then it ruins it
Yeah.
because you're having fun in this ridiculous circumstance, and then all of a sudden they bring this realism into it, and it makes it not fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I just appreciated like an unexpected Christmas that we had with Tyler Hines and Bethany this season that the thing I liked one of the things I liked about it is when the family finds out that there's been this fake relationship, they spend like a minute being like, "Oh," and then boom, they're on to finding her and moving on. Because
Yeah.
if you dwell on that and you make it a thing and characters are like pouty and upset, then it just ruins the fun because it's such a ridiculous story that you just can't do that. That's the
Yeah.
key. So
It
if
was
you're
almost
listening,
like they were more mad at him, like,
yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
let's fix this.
If you're listening authors, that's the key to that kind of story. You
Yeah.
cannot spend too much time in the like holding a grudge, angry, how could you lie to me phase, because that just spoils it. You can't.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
So, yeah, that does sound kind of fun, but yeah, I get the anxiety too. I can understand that. Well, there's three like things I always have to read at Christmas time. One is Luke 2, of course, in the Bible. And then the other is a book called The Mansion by Henry Van Dyke. And this is a novella, 32 pages. It's a short story, but
Okay.
it's very sweet. It's about this man who is very rich and he's not really a Scrooge per se, but he's just not giving of his largesse to people if it doesn't benefit him in some way. Like the only kind of charity that he does is the ones that are somehow promotional in some way to him and his business. And he's pretty hard on his kids but he thinks that he is doing what's right, and that he's been very very careful with how he spends his money. He won't give to beggars. And anyway, one night he has this dream that he's basically like made it to heaven, and everybody gets a house when they get to heaven. And he thinks that he's going to be given this great mansion because of all of the things that he did. And he gets there and it's like a slum. Like it's not even a nice house at all. And basically they're like, well, you had your reward. Everything you did, you were rewarded in earth on earth.
Hmm.
And it's like the many will come near unto me on their lips, and I know them not, and they have had their reward. And that's sort of the idea, is to think about how you can give unselfishly and serve others around you and be kind. And so it's just a lovely little Christmas story. It's definitely, I mean, it's from a faith perspective, but like pretty mild as far as like just things about heaven and stuff like that, like not like particularly evangelical. And so it's a nice story for Christmas.
That sounds so sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
Yep. And what's your next one?
So my next one is 12 Dates of Christmas by Charlie James. And this was fun. It this girl and this guy, they meet and they kind of hit it off and he asks her out. He just kind of goes for it. And we find out through the course of the book that he's reading this book called 12 Dates of Christmas by this author named Paige Turner, which is the pseudonym that we find out for our heroine. So that as they continue going out on dates, she's like, this feels awfully familiar. So she like goes to her girlfriend and she's like, I feel like he's reading the book that I wrote.
Oh,
And
that's fun.
yeah, she asks him like, "Hey, she just kind of like plays it by ear." And so like the next date, she's like, "Yep, word for word, like it's the same thing." So then she kind of tries to intervene like, "Well, let me plan our next date." And he's like, "No, And he comes clean. He's like, "My sister really encouraged me to read this book and I'm this is why like I'm planning our dates because it's like guaranteed to work or it's supposed to work." And so, it's kind of hidden identity. Like he doesn't know that she did it and she doesn't necessarily come clean at first. And it's oh, you made me look like a fool at the end. But it was really sweet. So that is 12 Dates of Christmas by Charlie James. There are a couple of titles that came out with that same title this year, but I really love this one. It's another one that's not very long. So, if you're looking for some fun holiday reading, it's a really quick read.
Mm-hmm. That sounds really good.
That's sweet.
I'm gonna read that. Well, my last one, the three I always read. The third one is A Christmas Carol, which is another novella by Charles Dickens, of course, the classic. And I think it's really worth actually reading it because we see so many film versions. But I think even the good versions skim the surface a little bit. Like they don't get to, I think, the heart of the book, of the story, that it's not just about Scrooge denying this, pleasant holiday. That's not really what it's about. It's about that he has taken Christ out of his life, and that that is truly is what has made him so bitter, is that he's taken out the true like meaning of life, and people have different outlets for that. Some people believe in Christ, some people believe in different things that they believe in, but he had just become cold to the world and cold to everyone around him. And so it's more than just kind of this, oh, he doesn't have fun at Christmas, like I just feel like there's a deeper level of like how he has become bitter towards the world and when he has a rebirth by the end. It's really beautiful and moving, and I don't know, I absolutely love the story. I love the fact that nobody's a lost cause to God. There's hope for anybody, and we should never give up on anybody in our lives. And I love like little things that are in the book that you never see in almost never see in the movies, like when he is flying with the Christmas present, and he asks about the people going to church and the hypocrites and the and people are they obeying, the Sabbath and things like that, and I don't know, there's like a depth to the book that you just never get, like the lighthouse scene when he goes and watches all the different people uh celebrating Christmas, and at the end he ends up with the man alone at the lighthouse celebrating Christmas by himself. Like, it's just beautiful. And so I don't know, there's just stuff in the book that you never get in the movies. So I think it's worth every year listening to it, and it's just such a great story and such a great character. Like, we're so used to the character of Ebenezer Scrooge, but in a very short and number of pages, we get such a dynamic, fascinating character, starting from the time he was a little boy all the way through his whole life till become the person that he is at the end. An incredible character, an incredibly written character, and so I mean, it's obviously a classic. I probably don't need to sell anybody on the Christmas Carol, but I do think it's worth actually reading it versus just watching the movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
hmm So
Because yeah, like you said, when you skip the book, you're skipping so much detail.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. I mean, and there are. I mean, I like most versions of Christmas Carol. I'm a fan of almost every version, but there are some that are closer to the book than others. Actually, the animated one with Jim Carrey is actually very accurate to the. I know some people don't like that kind of CGI animation that they use, but it's actually very close. It's the only one of the only ones that has the Sabbath day scene where he watches the parishioners. It has the lighthouse scene. It has stuff that no other version has. Also, the version with Patrick Stewart is very good, and I think very accurate, and not. I feel like no one ever talks about it, but it was very good. Um, so anyway, there's lots of really good versions out there. I mean, I even love Mickey and the Muppets and all that.
Yeah.
um, and the Muppets one actually has a lot of text from the book because they have Gonzo as Dickens. So
hmm
he actually says quite a few actual word for word passages from the book, and so that's fun. That's fun. There's another good one, the Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol. Like, you wouldn't think that would be good, but it's actually really good and has some very good songs. And they have a whole song about raspberry dressing,
Wow.
but it's a good one. But anyway, it's worth actually reading it. Don't just as much as I love film and movies, don't just rely on the movies, because there's more to the character and his transformation than just you weren't celebrating this day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think
anyway.
that's so important, especially if if there's a book that's involved. I mean, like the Miss Miracle. I haven't
hmm
read the Debbie Macomber book, but it sounds like it was pretty heavy. And I do
It was.
appreciate that, but I still appreciate the adaptation that they did because it was really wonderful. But now you have that original text to kind of go back to and get all of those
hmm
details. And then maybe, maybe that'll put into perspective for people like, okay, maybe this is why they lightened it up a little bit because it is, a heavier story. And I don't know how long ago she wrote those, but I mean, I feel like it was some years ago. It's not one of her more
Yeah.
recent releases. So maybe they updated it in a lot of ways. So yeah, I think that's important, you know, that
hmm
A Christmas Carol is so iconic, but I think it's really iconic for the movies. And like you said, there's a book people should probably read too.
hmm Yeah. So do you have one more? that you want to talk about? Or
Yeah. So my
yes.
last one is Her Christmas Future by Tara Taylor Quinn, which is part of a series. My last one is Her Christmas Future by Tara Taylor Quinn, which is part of a series, but I have not read the rest of the series and I feel like it was fine. So you can totally go into it. This one is, I don't want to say it's heavy, but the backstory is heavy. It's a second chance romance between a couple that's been married before. They've been divorced for about 10 years, but neither one of them have really moved on from each other. Like they've dated other people and stuff like that, but they haven't fallen in love with anybody new. And it starts off really with the heroine, they have had a night together, and she finds out that she's pregnant. But one of the main reasons why their relationship ended was because they lost the one child that they did have. So science stuff, insert science stuff, guys, that I am not a professional at. She takes the egg. Basically, another woman carries the baby for her. I'm not even going to try to use the terminology because I do not know. Another woman steps up and carries a baby for her. And, we see this couple that's been together before, and they reflect on the problems that they had and the reasons that they didn't stay together, but they really do want to be together. They're just trying to make sure that they don't make a mistake, especially with a child coming into the world. And then there's that anxiety of, is this pregnancy actually going to last? Like, are we going to actually get a baby out of this? So Tara Taylor Quinn writes that type of story a lot. She's just really big on hope and love. And so she is a master at writing those types of stories. So I really enjoyed this one. It's not heavy on the Christmas, but if you are looking for something a little bit more serious in tone and hopeful and seeing, I love stories where people have already been together. The chemistry's already there. There's already all these emotions. So I loved it for that. So that's Her Christmas Future by Tara Taylor Quinn.
That sounds good. That sounds really good.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out. So we had not decided what we wanted to do for
Oh my
our
gosh, we
next.
didn't.
Did you have any ideas?
Oh my gosh. What has even been coming out? I mean,
Well,
I have so many that I'm like in my mind. I'm like, yeah, but this is Christmas. I don't know. What about you? Have you thought of anything?
well, one that I thought of is was it 2019? 2019, they're one of my friends is Esther Hatch, and she writes Regency novels, and she did a anthology piece
Ooh.
with three other authors, and so it was four short stories called All Hearts Come Home for Christmas, and they're all Regency stories, love stories. And I thought that might be kind of fun to do a collection, an anthology.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Um,
Yeah.
and so and it is available on audiobook. We had Esther and Joanna on the podcast before, and they contributed. And I don't know, I just remember really enjoying it, and I think that might be kind of fun. What do you think?
Yeah. Let's do that one.
Okay, good. I'll put the information if people want to check it out in the description, and yeah, we'll do all hearts come home for Christmas. It's Sarah Eden, who's great, and Anita Stanfield, she does good work. Joanna Barker and Esther Hatch. So that's what we'll do for December. And yeah, let us know if you all read Mistletoe and Juneau, Juneau, what you thought of it. Did you like it? Not like it? We'd love to hear your thoughts, and we'd like to hear what you're reading. And Bree, where can people find you?
I am on Instagram at Falling for Romance, and I also co-host the Categorically Romance podcast, and that's it.
That's a lot. That's great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes, and on Goodreads. So follow me there, and make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That helps us so much. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check out the Patreon group. It's so much fun. We so appreciate that support. And we also have the merch store, which has tons of fun designs for the Hallmarky in your life. So take a look at that. And thanks again, Bree. This is always so much fun. I look forward to it. And
Yay!
we will talk next month.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.